So when you are in California, propositions are abundant. Proposition 19 is one thing that comes up every now and again, and Proposition 19 makes a lot of sense, but you have to make sure that you're working inside the guidelines. Proposition 19 is very helpful in some ways and not so much in other ways. In California, we have a Proposition 13 from 1978. February 16th, 2021, Proposition 19 actually was passed into law. Proposition 19 brought in Proposition 13, which has been around since 1978. Proposition 13 allows us in California to keep our tax base and have our tax base raise no more than 2% per year from the time that we purchased the home. If you purchased the home back in 1978 for $100,000, your tax base was 1.25%. So that's $1,250 a year based on $100,000 and 1.25%. And that was not chump change because you're purchasing the home for $100,000. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that yes, the monthly payment on that, if you were to break it out into monthly payments, is $104.16, $104.17, depending if you're rounding up or not. That's Proposition 13. The rule with Proposition 13 is that it allows you to keep your tax base and will not raise more than 2% per year from the time that you purchased the home. 1978, $100,000 purchase of a home gives you $1,250 a year that you're paying taxes on. That means that your property tax will not raise more than 2% per year. In other words, that first year is going to be $1,250. It won't raise more than $25 regardless of how much your house is improved. In other words, if you were to purchase that home for $100,000 and the next year it's worth $400,000, your tax base will not follow that $400,000, which is a huge savings. So $400,000 at 1.25% is $5,000. So that's a tremendous difference from the $1,250 that you paid the year before. Now, if you fast forward the current market and how Silicon Valley specifically does work, let's say they purchased the home for $1 million, and that first year at 1.25%, and the 1.25% is going to be state and county, and it's not going to be counting other taxes that might come into play. So you want to double check that with your agent and loan officer if you're getting a loan as you're purchasing. So that $1 million is going to be $12,500 for the year on taxes. And let's say the next year, the value goes up to 1.4. And it's actually not that outlandish because we've actually seen this in recent years. It goes from $1 million to 1.4. That means that you do not pay taxes on more than that 2% above the $12,500. The $1 million, if we break it out, the $1 million purchase price at 1.25% is $12,500. And then we add that, it's going to be an additional $250 at 2%. So 2% per year, no more than that. So it's capped out. And that's Proposition 13. The only people who have had an issue with Proposition 13 are really the politicians. Let's call it what it is. What they've done is they've really tried to get away from Proposition 13 as much as they possibly can. Now, in their defense, the biggest issue that they have is that it is also on commercial property. And so commercial property, you can imagine you purchase a property and that property is 1.25% and it falls into Proposition 13. So that commercial property, there's ways inside the commercial world to actually make that Proposition 13 stick. In their defense, they've tried to push away Proposition 13 from the commercial side. Really, it's kind of been their main play. Proposition 19 has really kind of helped. Proposition 13, and let me rewind for just a quick second. For a long time, you were able to take that Proposition 13, and anywhere in California, it was across all the counties. And then they started to break those counties down. And it really came down to there were just a couple of counties that you could sell your property and then hold on to your tax base and transfer it over. And those were actually two others. And those were Propositions 60 and 90. And it allowed you to transfer your tax base from one county to another. And those counties started to get whittled down. And so what has now happened is now we have Proposition 19. So Proposition 19 allows you as a California homeowner to sell your home. And you can sell your home in any county across the state. It allows you to take that transfer and keep your tax base. In other words, if you purchase in 1978 and you have $100,000 and you purchase for $100,000 and that tax base has not grown so much over the course of time. Really over the course of time, if you take a look at that, the amount of money that that you're paying in taxes now versus what you were paying then is not an incredible amount, because you're still paying very minimal compared to the tax base that somebody purchases now. So I would estimate that if you purchased a property for $100,000 back in 1978, your tax base now would be just about $4,175 per year, which is $347.92 a month. So if you take it from that perspective, you have done pretty well as far as your tax base goes. So based on that, when you leave the county or you sell your home, let's say that you're in the Silicon Valley and you want to sell your home and go someplace else. Let's say to Sacramento County, for example, and you want to take the funds from this and purchase your next home over there. You can sell your home here for however much you sell it for and purchase a home someplace else in Sacramento County, in another county in California, and you'll be able to take your tax base with you. And it's a huge blessing for somebody who is trying to get into retirement, because now they don't have that additional tax burden that they otherwise would. Because if you purchase in another county and that home is $1 million, now your tax base is going to be based on that $1 million. So let's say it's 1.25 of the $1 million. Now you're paying $12,500 instead of what you would have been paying around $5,000. It's a tremendous difference. That is a huge blessing and a big savings. That's Prop 19, allows you to take your tax base anywhere you sell in California to anywhere that you buy in California. That's the benefit to Prop 19. Now, one of the drawbacks to Prop 19 is that you no longer can inherit a home and you no longer can keep that tax base unless you have it as your primary residence. Now, talk to an attorney, talk to a tax attorney or a family attorney on this, just to be sure that your scenario is understood completely. And if you need an attorney, please let me know and I'm happy to refer them to you. When you're looking at Prop 19, this is the fly in the ointment as an individual who may have seen the benefit of Prop 13. You can no longer pass the property on, and that person can no longer hold on to the property and just rent it out and keep the same tax base. And so that is a big difference between Proposition 19 and Proposition 13. Proposition 13, you could pass the property on and they could keep the same tax base. Let's say they're paying a few $1,000s a year in taxes for the property and the annual amount they're making is $60,000, $5,000 a month. So that makes a tremendous difference. However, now, unless they're planning to live in that home, unless they can prove that home is their primary residence, can they hold on to the tax base? The beautiful thing is, if they are going to move into the home and have it as their primary residence, they will be able to keep the tax base. I'm always here and happy to help. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to me. And if you have any ideas for other videos, or if you have any questions that maybe could turn into a video, please let me know. Like, subscribe. Talk to you soon.